Hi and welcome to our new YouTube tutorial. In this video we're going to build a drop-down menu with the HTML, CSS and JavaScript. The drop-down will have some cool hover effects. The project is going to be a kind of little one, but you will learn about how to create some nice effects using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the project. We have here a full screen background image with a heading in the center. Also, you can see three different navigation items at the top of the page. If we hover over them, then a drop-down menu will display with some nice transition effects. Okay, so that's it, what we're going to build. I have created a new folder on the desktop called Drop-Down Menu. Let's go ahead and open this folder in VS Code. As you can see, I have here a couple of different files. Files for HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And also I have prepared the text file in which I store some content for the drop-down menus. Besides that, I have a folder for the background image. Alright, let's go ahead and run the project in the browser. For that, I'm going to use a package called Live Server, which allows us to open a project in the browser and make updates without refreshing the page each time. So you can download and install this package, and also you can download the starter source files from the link in the description. Okay, finally let's place the editor in the browser. Like so. And start to create the HTML markup. I have already prepared the basic HTML document here. I have two different links in the head element, one for the Google font and the second one for the CSS file. Also, I have a script tag for the JavaScript file down below. Okay, let's go ahead and open the div element, which will be the container of the entire content. Next, I'm going to open a section element with the class wrapper. So this section will consist of two different parts. The first one is going to be a banner with a heading. As for the second one, it should be the navigation. So let's insert here a div element with the class name banner. Then inside the div element, let's open h1 heading with the class banner text and with the content drop-down menu. Alright, next I'm going to open a nav element with the class name navbar. So we will have one main list with three different list items inside the navbar, and each of them will have its own drop-down menu. So let's open the UL element with a class name navlist. Next we need a li element, which should have class navitem. It will be followed by the link with the class navlink and with the text web development. So as we said, each navigation item should have its own drop-down menu. Therefore, let's insert here a new list with the class name dropdown. So in the first drop-down menu, we will have 6 different list items. Let's open the first one with the class drop-down item. Then insert here the link with class name drop-down link. So we will insert here some technology names with the descriptions. The first one is going to be HTML. Then open the P element. And now I'm going to grab the description from the text file. We need here the description of the HTML. Let's paste it here. As I said, overall we will have 6 items. So let's duplicate li element 5 times. The second one is going to be CSS. Let's grab its description. from the text file. Next one should be React. Then we will have Node. Followed by the Express. And the last one is going to be MongoDB. Alright, that's it about the first drop-down menu. Let's duplicate the entire first nav item with its drop-down twice. So the second item is going to be front end. In this case, overall we will have 4 different items. I'm going to leave here HTML and CSS. Then duplicate CSS and insert here JavaScript with its description. I'm going to leave here React and also get rid of the rest of the items. Alright, that's it about this second item. The third item is going to be backend. And I'm going to leave here just the last 3 items. Okay, so the last thing that we have to do in HTML file is to create div element, which will be used for the background of the drop-down menu. Let's insert it right above the closing nav tag and assign to it class name dropdown.bg. Alright, so that's it about the HTML. All the elements are created and prepared. Next we have to start to write some CSS. First of all, I'm going to create some reset styles for all the elements. In order to select them, we need to use an asterisk. Let's get rid of default margin and padding. Let's set both of them to 0. Also, I'm going to remove default underline from the links and the default bullets from the list items. For that, we need to use text decoration with the value none and also list style none. Finally, change the font family. Throughout this project, we're going to use font called EB Garamond with the font group serif. Alright, so as you can see, now the content looks differently. Throughout this project, we're going to use rem as the measurement unit. By default, 1 rem equals to 16 pixels because the font size of the HTML is equal to 16 pixels. I want to convert 1 rem into 10 pixels, and for that we need to decrease the font size of HTML, and we have to make it 62.5%. Okay, let's go ahead and start to work on the wrapper. I'm going to expand wrapper to the entire page. For that, let's set its width as 100%. As for the height, I'm going to make it 100% of the viewport. Therefore, we need here 100 VH. After that, let's set the image as the full screen background. First of all, let's use linear gradient with white colors, but with different opacity. In the first case, I'm going to use opacity 0.4. As for the second case, let's use opacity 0.2. After that, we have to specify the URL of the image. As you know, we have a folder called images, in which I store image called bg.jpg. Next, we need center and no repeat. And finally, we need to define background size with the value cover. Alright, so as you can see, we set full screen image as the background, and next I'm going to take care of the banner. So let's go ahead and select it. I'm going to set its width to 100%. Also, we need to position it, and for that let's make its position absolute. Next, I'm going to move it down with the top position. Let's set it to 35%. Okay, so the position of the banner is changed, and now we have to work on the heading itself. I'm going to place it in the center of the page, and also I'm going to make it look better. So let's go ahead and select banner text. Let's place it in the center using text align center. Then increase its font size, make it 7 rem. Also change the color. I'm going to make it white. After that, let's transform text into uppercase using text transform property. Also, I want to create some space between the letters using letter spacing with the value 0.2 rem. And finally, I'm going to use some shadow effect. Let's insert here the values 0, 0.2 rem, 0.5 rem, and as the color, let's use 888. Alright, so actually with the first part we are done. I'm in the banner, and now we have to take care of the navigation. Let's go ahead and select the main list, which has the class navList. I'm going to place list items horizontally in a row, and for that let's use flexbox. We need display flex, and then in order to center them horizontally, let's use justify content center. Next, I'm going to work on the li element. So let's select it with the class navItem. First of all, let's create some space at the top of the element using margin top with value 2 rems. Next, I'm going to place the text in the center using text align center. And finally, let's define the width. I'm going to set it to 26 viewport width. It means that we set the width as 26% of the viewport. Okay, finally, let's customize the links. Select them. Increase the font size, make it 2 rems. Also, I'm going to change the font weight. Let's set it to 600. Then transform text into uppercase. Change the color. In this case, I'm going to use color 245F9B and create some space between letters. Let's set letter spacing to 0.1 rem. And finally, I'm going to use shadow with the values 0, 0.2 rem, 0.5 rem, and the color B8, B8, B8. Alright, so with the main list items we are done. Now we have to take care of the drop-downs. Let's go ahead and select them using class dropdown. Let's create some space at the top using margin top, 1 rem. And also I'm going to change the background color for the list for a while. Let's make it white. Alright, next I'm going to move on and customize the drop-down item. So let's select it. Right now the text is placed in the center, but we need to place it on the left side. So let's use text align with the value left. Also, I'm going to create some space using padding. Let's set it to 2 rems at the top, then 2 rems on the right side, 0 at the bottom, and 2 rems on the left side. Alright, actually we need the same amount of the space at the end of the list as well. I mean after the last item. For that, let's use a pseudo class called lastChild and select the last item. We need dropdown item followed by the lastChild pseudo class. In order to create some space at the bottom, let's use padding bottom with the value 2 rand. Alright, so that's it about the li element. Let's go ahead and customize the links. Select drop-down link. I'm going to change the font size, make it 1.6 rand. Also make the font weight bolder. Transform text into uppercase. And finally change the color. I'm going to use again color 245 F9B. Okay, so with the links we're done. Finally, I'm going to start the descriptions. They are represented by the P elements. So let's select them. I'm going to increase the font size. Let's make it 1.6 rand. And change the color. Let's use here color 5F6061. Alright, so right now drop-downs look much better, and actually we are almost done with styling. As you can see, the heading drop-down menu is placed on top of the menus. I want to place it behind them, and for that I'm going to use the z-index property. First of all, let's define the position for the drop-down, because otherwise z-index won't work. Let's make position relative, and then use the index with the value, let's say 100. Alright, so as you can see, the heading is placed behind the menus, and now I'm going to create a hover effect. We're going to hide menus by default and display them on hover. So in order to hide them, let's use opacity 0 and visibility hidden. Then select nav item with hover. Followed by the drop down. So in order to display the menus back, we need opacity 1 and visibility visible. So now if I hover over the item, then the menus will display, but actually we have here a little problem. We don't need to hover over the item itself, because if we hover down below, then the menus will display anyway. So in order to fix that, we have to set the height to 0 by default. And we need to make it auto on hover. So now the problem is fixed. Finally, let's add here some transition with values all and 0.1 second. Alright, so this is a simple standard drop-down without any additional effects. Let's take a look once again at the finished version of our project. When we hover over the items, then the background appears from the different place. To be more precise, from the place where we hovered over last time. Besides that, this background is a different element and not just the background color. As you remember, we created the div element with the class name dropdown bg in HTML. So let's go ahead and select this element and define its width and height. I'm going to set width to 40 rand. As for the height, I'm going to make it 60 rand. Actually, we defined those properties and values just temporarily. Eventually, we will set them from the JavaScript. So now, in order to make the background visible, I'm going to define background color. I want the background to be slightly transparent. So let's use here RGBA value 243. Again 243, 243 with the opacity 0.93. and actually get rid of the white background from the dropdown. Alright, so as you can see, the background is visible. Let's make it slightly rounded using border radius with the value 0.3 rem, and also create some shadow effect using box shadow with the value 0.5 rem, 1 rem, and the color 757575. Okay, next I'm going to create a little arrow, I mean the little shape which you see here. For that, let's use one of the pseudo elements called before. Select Dropdown BG with before pseudo element. First of all, I'm going to make the content empty. Then we need to make its position absolute in order to position it in the right way. And besides that, we need to define the position for its parent element. Let's make it absolute as well. After that, I'm going to give the shape to the before pseudo element. I'm going to do that using a couple of border properties. I'm going to start with border left. Let's assign to it the values 1 rem, solid, and the color transparent. Then I'm going to duplicate it twice. The second property is going to be border right with the same values. As for the third one, it's going to be border bottom. And as the color, let's use red. Alright, so the arrow is visible and now we have to take care of its position. I want to place it perfectly in the center of the background, and also it should be placed at the top of it. So I'm going to make its top position 0. Also we need left to be 50%. And besides that, we have to use transform. With the translate function, we need to pass here the values minus 50% and then minus 100%. Okay, so the last thing that we have to do is to change the color. Let's use here the same light color instead of the red one. Let's copy it and paste it here. Okay, as I said, we were setting width and height temporarily, and now I'm going to get rid of them, and also we have to hide the background by default. Therefore we need here opacity 0 and the visibility hidden. Alright, so with the CSS we are almost done. Now it's time to write some JavaScript. Let's go to script.js file. First of all, I'm going to create a variable in which we will store a div element with the Dropdown BG class. So create new variable, call it Dropdown BG. Then select the element using query selector method. We need to specify here the class name, which is going to be Dropdown BG. Okay, so now we need to attach to each nav item a mouse over event handler. For that we need to select all the items and loop through them. So let's go ahead and select nav items using query selector all method. We need to specify here the class name nav item. Actually, query selector all method returns an array-like object called node list, and we have to transform it into an array. For that I'm going to use array.from method. After that, let's use one of the array helper methods called forEach. It allows us to execute the function for each array item separately. We need to pass here an arrow function that takes the parameter, which is going to be the current item during the looping through the array. And now we have to attach to the item mouse over event handler. So we need here on mouse over. Actually, the mouse over event is similar to hover in CSS. So on hover, we have to make the background visible. Therefore, we have to insert here dropdown bg dot style dot opacity equal to 1. Then I'm going to duplicate this line of code. We need here visibility with the value visible. Okay, right now background is not visible because it doesn't have the width and height. As we said, we're going to define width and height from JavaScript. So let's go ahead and do that. Define a width for the dropdown bg. I mean, we need dropdown bg dot style dot width. So we are going to make the width of the background equal to the width of the drop-down menu itself. I mean the drop-down which should display on hover. For that, I'm going to use one of the JavaScript methods called getComputedStyle. This method gives us all the actual computed CSS properties and values of the specified element. So let's use this method. Inside the parentheses, we need to specify the element. It's going to be a drop-down. And in order to reach to the mentioned element, let's pass here item dot last element child. Because if we look at the HTML file, we will find that dropdown is the last child element of the nav item. Okay, finally, we need to choose width property. Next, we need the exact same for the height as well. So let's duplicate this line of code and change width into height. So if I hover over the items, then background will display. It changes its width and height depending on the item we are hovering over. But the problem here is that background has a wrong position. So we need to take care of that. Before that, let's add a transition to the background in CSS. Assign to it the values all and 0.3 seconds. Alright, now we have a smooth transition effect, and it's time to take care of the position of the background. I'm going to define it from the JavaScript dynamically. Let's at first define top position. Use dropdown bg dot style dot top. Now I'm going to use ES6 template strings. Let's open backticks. Then we need $sign with the curly braces. So we have to set the top position equal to the offset top of the dropdown. Actually, offset top property returns the top position relative to the top of the parent element, and it gives us the value in pixels. So we need to insert here item dot last element child, because we need to get access to the dropdown. Then it should be followed by the offset top. After that, we have to specify px because we need pixels. Actually, we need the exact same for the left position as well. So let's duplicate this line of code and change top into the left. Okay, now if I hover over the items, then background will display in the right positions. So everything works fine except the one thing. If I place mouse out of the item, then the content of the drop-down menu will hide, but the background itself will keep displaying. So we have to hide it on mouse out event. So we need item dot on mouse out. Then let's grab those two lines from here, paste them and change the values. For the opacity we need 0. As for the visibility, it should be hidden. Okay, now the problem is fixed, everything works fine, but actually we have here a tiny issue. We need a little delay time until the drop-down items display, and also I'm going to display them from right to left. For that, let's use transform with the translate function. I mean translate according to the x-axis. As the value, let's insert here 10%. Then on hover, we have to make the value of translateX function 0. Finally, let's use here transition with some delay time. We need to assign to it all, then the duration 0.1 second, and the delay time 0.2 seconds. Okay, so now everything works perfectly, and actually we're done with this little project. I hope it was interesting because we used here some different techniques, and hopefully you learned some new stuff. If you enjoyed this video, then please like it, comment below, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the bell in order to get notified on upcoming tutorials. Alright, see you next time.